Okay.
All right, welcome everyone. So we continue our study from the book of Daniel, chapter 8. We completed in our last meeting up to Daniel 8:14. And, we saw the prophecy in Jeremiah 25:11, where we saw 70 years were given to as a prophecy that you will be under the Babylonian rule. And we are now approaching the end of that 70-year period. Daniel is looking forward to the captivity ending in Babylon. And when is it that they will all return back to Jerusalem? But the Gabriel gives a new number here, 2,300 days. And we have seen in the last meeting what that 2,300 days actually means, right? What it actually means, and where it starts and where it ends. But what I want to pick up is, I want to pick up in Daniel 8 from 15. Right? What happened to Daniel as he was seeing this vision? From 15 to 17, please. Daniel 8, 15 to 17. Yeah.
దానియేలును నేను ఈ దర్శనము చూచితిని, దానిని తెలుసుకొనదగిన వివేకము పొందవలెనని ఉండగా మనుష్యుని రూపము గల ఒకడు నా ఎదుట నిలిచెను. అంతటా ఊలయి నది తీరముల మధ్య నిలిచి పలుకుచున్న ఒక మనుష్యుని స్వరము వింటిని. అది గాబ్రియేలు ఈ దర్శన భావమును ఇతనికి తెలియజేయమని చెప్పెను. అప్పుడు అతడు నేను నిలుచున్న చోటునకు వచ్చెను. అతడు రాగానే నేను మహా భయమొంది సాష్టాంగపడితిని. అతడు నరపుత్రుడా, ఈ దర్శనము అంత్యకాలమును గూర్చినదని తెలుసుకొనమనెను.
So he was talking about, he's telling, Daniel was really concerned about this time period that he saw in the vision. And so in the vision, and one holy one said to another and said to Gabriel, go and explain. What did the man's voice say? Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid. I fell down. And then what did Gabriel say? Understand, son of man, that the vision refers to the time of the end. That particular time, 2,300 days, refers to the time of the end, not your captivity, right? And so because the angel knew what the concern of Daniel was, right? It refers to a time of the end, and the angel was right. That prophecy came all the way to 1844, right? And if that is the fulfillment, which means that we are not living, we are living in the time of the end. Right? There's not too many more time prophecies to be fulfilled. All of those prophecies have been fulfilled now. So according to the Bible, we are living in the time of the end. The 20th, 21st centuries are the time of the end. Okay? All right, now the Gabriel also gives him understanding of the beasts that he saw, the ram, the goat, all of them, the horns. Okay, so let's quickly see that. And this doesn't need much explanation because we have already gone through this, but we will just complete it, right? So from 18 to 22, please, anybody?
అతడు నాతో మాట్లాడుచుండగా నేను గాఢ నిద్ర పట్టిన వాడనై నేలను సాష్టాంగపడితిని గనుక అతడు నన్ను పట్టుకొని లేవనెత్తి నిలవబెట్టెను. మరియు అతడు ఉగ్రత సమాప్తమైన కాలమందు కలగబోవునట్టి సంగతులు నీకు తెలియజేయుచున్నాను. ఏలయనగా అది నిర్ణయించిన అంత్యకాలమును కూర్చున్నది. నీవు చూచిన 2 కొమ్ములు గల ఆ పొటేళ్లున్నదే, అది మాదీయుల యొక్కయు పారసీకుల యొక్కయు రాజులను సూచించుచున్నది. బొచ్చుగల ఆ మేకపోతు గ్రేకుల రాజు, దాని 2 కన్నుల మధ్యనున్న ఆ పెద్ద కొమ్ము వారి మొదటి రాజును సూచించుచున్నది. అది పెరిగిన పిమ్మట దానికి బదులుగా 4 కొమ్ములు పుట్టినవి కదా. 4 రాజులు ఆ జనములో నుండి పుట్టుదురు, కానీ వారు అతనికున్న బలము గలవారుగా ఉండరు.
Right? So what was the first one, the animal that he saw? The ram which you saw with 2 horns, they are Medians and Persians, right? We saw that already. So now the names are also coming out, right? To Daniel. Daniel is still in the time of Belshaazar. Remember, Belshaazar is still the king. This vision, he saw it in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshaazar, right? And so he's telling that in the future, very soon, Medes and Persians are going to come. After them, who's going to come? The kingdom of Greece. It named the kingdom of Greece. And it's King Alexander. The 1 horn, it did not name Alexander, but that's who it is. We know from history. And the horn was broken. Alexander died at a very young age. And then 4 kingdoms came in place of 1 huge Greek kingdom. Instead of that, it was divided among his 4 generals. We have the map in one of our meetings as well, right? But not as powerful as Alexander, of course. And now, okay, from 23 all the way to 26, please. 26, and then we will see 27. Now here, before you read it, please understand that this is talking about the next kingdom after Greece. What came after Greece? Rome came after Greece, right? The Rome, the pagan Rome and the papal Rome. This particular vision encompasses both the periods, where the Roman emperors, right? When Jesus was there, it was Caesar Augustus, right? And then Tiberius Caesar, and then Nero. All of these people were Roman emperors, pagan Rome, Justinian, Constantine, all of them represent pagan Rome. After that, that period ended, and Rome, the power of that was given over to the bishops of Rome. And the bishop of Rome became the Pope of Rome. They continued. After that, there is no more emperors, right? Complete power was taken away, and one man had both religious and political power. So this is talking about both those phases, pagan Rome and papal Rome. What did they do to Christians, right? So let us read what they did. 23 to 26, please.
వారి ప్రభుత్వము యొక్క అంతములో వారి అతిక్రమములు సంపూర్తి అగుచుండగా క్రూర ముఖము గలవాడును యుక్తి గలవాడునై ఉండి ఉపాయము తెలుసుకొను ఒక రాజు పుట్టును. అతడు గెలుచును గాని తన స్వబలము వలన గెలవడు. ఆశ్చర్యముగా శత్రువులను నాశనము చేయుట యందు అభివృద్ధి పొందుచు ఇష్టమైనట్లుగా జరిగించుచు బలవంతులను అనగా పరిశుద్ధ జనమును నశింపచేయును. మరియు నతడు ఉపాయము కలిగిన వాడై మోసము చేసి తనకు లాభము తెచ్చుకొనును. అతడు అతిశయపడి తన్ను తాను హెచ్చించుకొనును. క్షేమముగా నున్న కాలమందు అనేకులను సంహరించును. అతడు రాజాది రాజుతో యుద్ధము చేయును గాని కడపట అతని బలము దైవాధీనము వలన కొట్టివేయబడును. ఆ దినములను గూర్చిన దర్శనమును వివరించి ఉన్నాను. అది వాస్తవము. అది అనేక దినములు జరిగిన పిమ్మట నెరవేరును. నీవైతే ఈ దర్శనము వెల్లడి చేయకుమనెను.
Okay, so in this one it talks about and in the later time of their kingdom, when the transgressions have reached their fullness, a king shall arise, right? All these kingdoms, all of them have a beginning and have an end. None of them really followed the plan that God had for them, and that's why their kingdom ended. Right? That's why the Babylonian kingdom ended. That's why Nebuchadnezzar had to face punishment. And we are going to see what will happen to Belshaazar as well. So when their transgressions have reached their fullness, their kingdom ended and the next kingdom came. Another king came, right? When the Greek kingdom, ended, then the Romans came. These Romans having fierce features, right? They were extremely powerful, ruthless. They understand sinister schemes the way they did it very cunningly. Their power will be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy fearfully. This one also talks about the pagan power and the papal power, especially the papal power, was given power by the political class, not by his own power. The others actually gave him power. Right? Even today, right, they get their power from others, not their own army or anything like that. He shall destroy fearfully, he shall prosper, he shall thrive, he shall destroy the mighty people, he shall destroy the holy people, he shall distort the scriptures. All this history we have seen, right? We have seen the 1260 dark years. I told you about that prophecy, right? How the truth was trampled to the ground by the early church, by the church, the papal church. Through his cunning, he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule. All lies will prosper. He will exalt himself in his heart. He will destroy many people in their prosperity. He shall even rise against the Prince of Princes. Who is the Prince of Princes? Is Jesus, right? That's what we call him, the princes. He will try and exalt himself and try to take the place against of Jesus Christ. And that exactly happened. And is still happening inside the papal church, inside the Catholic beliefs, right? They take the place of Jesus. They take the place of the mediator. It is Jesus Christ through whom we get forgiveness and who can forgive sins. If you take that place and somebody comes to you and confesses and you forgive, then you are taking the place of the Prince of Princes, Jesus Christ, right? But one day he will be broken without human means, right? That's a very interesting thing. He'll be broken. One day all of this will come to an end and God will destroy this false, corrupt practices. One day all of them will go away. But not by man, which means that these things will continue till Jesus comes again. No man will be able to do this. Only Jesus will do it when he comes back. He will put an end to the false church, the false beliefs. Okay? Now, and the visions and the evenings of the morning, which was told is true. This is what Gabriel told. Therefore, seal up the vision, for it refers to many days in the future. Right? That is it for now. Whatever I needed to tell you, I told you. Now, seal up, meaning this vision is over. There should not be any more questions on this at this point of time. Seal it up. Right? Don't contemplate so much on this one because it refers to many days in the future. People use this phrase in order to diminish the importance of the book of Daniel, stating that once the angel has sealed it up, then we are nobody to explore it, right? But it says it is for many days in the future, the time of the end. We are living in that time. So it is actually for us to explore this one, not for Daniel. He gave it so that we will do it. That's why it's included here. Right? If it was a secret, it wouldn't be here. And then I, Daniel, fainted and I was sick for so many days. Afterwards, I arose and then I went about the king's business as I was astonished by the vision, but nobody understood it. Right? What is there to understand? Everything already Gabriel told, right? He said the Medo-Persians, he said Greece, he said another king will come. All of that is so clear. What did he not understand? The part that he did not understand at this point of time still is the 2300 days prophecy. He was so confused about that prophecy, he mistook that to be a new timeline for the captivity of Israel. Right? And we know, I told you in the last meeting, he got that clarity many years later. We are going to come to that chapter also, but he got that explanation many years later. Right? As to what exactly that is, when does it start, what does it refer to? Okay? So that ends Daniel 8. This was done, he got this vision in which year of Belshaazar? The third year of King Belshaazar. Okay? Remember, still he's in the Babylonian rule. Now the 9th chapter, if you see, it starts with the first year of Darius, right? So you must be wondering, where did Darius come from suddenly? right? What happened to Belshazzar? So because we are going through Daniel chronologically, we will not go to 9, but we will go back to 5, Daniel chapter 5. Okay? You have time?
Yeah, 5 we didn't do, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to Daniel chapter. Do you have any questions in the meantime? After Daniel 5, we won't go to Daniel 6. We will come to Daniel 9. Then we will come to 6. Is that okay? That is the chronological order. Okay. So let's go to Daniel 5. All right. Now, Belshazzar, was he the son of Nebuchadnezzar? Who can remember this? Who was Belshazzar?
Yes. He's daughter's son.
He is the
Nebuchadnezzar's
daughter's son. Excellent.
son.
Right?
Yeah.
So he is the grandson of
Nebuchadnezzar.
Right? What was his father's name? Anybody remembers? Nabonidus. Okay.
Neb-
All right. So Nabonidus often was traveling on work, and so he appointed his son as in charge, right, in his place. Although the official king of Babylon was Nabonidus, but the operating king of the everyday activities was Belshazzar. Okay. Now Belshazzar knew about the history that happened. After all, his mother must have told him what happened to her father, right, Nebuchadnezzar, right? And how Nebuchadnezzar got dreams, how he was proud, how he was humble. She must have told him about the stories of Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego also. And most importantly, she must have told him how much Nebuchadnezzar humbled himself and submitted himself to God. Right? That's why in Jeremiah 25, God calls Nebuchadnezzar my servant. Nebuchadnezzar, a heathen king, ultimately submitted himself. 2 times he went back. Right? When Daniel interpreted the dream, he submitted, but he said, your God is the greatest God. But again, he went back on it and he was continuing his evil ways. When he saw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego delivered, he believed one more time, again back to his proud and evil ways. Again, he said, is this not Babylon that I built? Right? It's all by my might, my power. And at that point of time, his punishment was that he had to go and spend 7 years in the forest, eating with animals. Like an animal, he had to live. Belshazzar had all that context with him. So you would imagine that Belshazzar would obey and follow that God and humble himself. But Belshazzar also lived a very, very proud and exalted life. He did not believe, he did not humble himself. Though he knew everything, though his mother had told him everything, no, he wanted to live a very, very extravagant life against the will of God. Right? And let us see some of the things that Belshazzar did. In the last year of Belshazzar's reign, okay, this happened. Let's see what happened in the life of Belshazzar in his last year, in his last days. Somebody please read from 1 to 4. Daniel 5, 1 to 4.
రాజుగు బెల్షజరు తన అధిపతులలో 1000 మందికి గొప్ప విందు చేయించి ఆ 1000 మందితో కలుసుకొని ద్రాక్షారసము తాగుచుండెను. బెల్షజరు ద్రాక్షారసము తాగుచుండగా తానును తన అధిపతులను తన రాణులను తన ఉపపత్నులను వాటిలో ద్రాక్షారసము పోసి తాగునట్లు తన తండ్రి యగు నెబుకద్నెజరు యెరూషలేములోని ఆలయములో నుండి తెచ్చిన వెండి బంగారు పాత్రలను తెమ్మని ఆజ్ఞ ఇచ్చెను. అందుకు వారు యెరూషలేములోని దేవుని నివాసమగు ఆలయంలో నుండి తీసుకున్న సువర్ణోపకరణములను తెచ్చి ఉంచగా రాజును అతని అధిపతులను అతని రాణులను అతని ఉపపత్నులను వాటిలో ద్రాక్షారసము పోసి తాగిరి. వారు బంగారు, వెండి, ఇత్తడి, ఇనుము, కర్ర, రాయి అను వాటితో చేసిన దేవతలను స్తుతించుచు ద్రాక్షారసము తాగుచుండగా ఆ గడియలోనే మానవ హస్తపు వేళ్లు కనబడి దీపము దగ్గర రాజు యొక్క నగరు గోడ పూత మీద ఏదో ఒక వ్రాత వ్రాయుచున్నట్టుండెను. రాజు ఆ హస్తము వ్రాయుట చూడగా అతని ముఖము వికారమాయెను. అతడు మనస్సునందు కలవరపడగా అతని నడుము కీళ్లు వదిలి అతని మోకాళ్ళు గడగడ వణుకుచు కొట్టుకొనుచుండెను.
Okay, thank you so much. So Belshaazar made a great feast, it said, for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. Right? His lords meaning all his leaders, right? His governors, his satraps, they call them in charge, supervisors, whoever, managers in today's world. So that all the people who are under his rulership, all of them, he called them all and then made a huge feast for them. This was not uncommon in those days, right? The kings used to make feasts for thousands of people at the same time, because, you know, there is no accountability to the king in those days, right? There is, you know, there's nothing called a democracy there or a budget or anything like that. Whatever the king likes, he would do. Now, so he made a great feast and they were drinking wine, and you can imagine they're completely intoxicated, because those days it wasn't just a one-day affair. That would continue for days, weeks, till they think that they had enough. It would just keep continuing. There's no timeline for that, right? And then they would have entertainment and they would, whatever they want, right? They would start doing. And so, but here, when he tasted the wine, Belshaazar gave the command to bring for the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple which had been in Jerusalem. Right? See, how did he know about all of these things? He knew that his father Nebuchadnezzar went and captured Jerusalem and brought from it precious things from those temples. And his father Nebuchadnezzar, once he realized, you know, his mistake, he must have preserved them in a sacred place, not to be touched for all such occasions, right? Holy unto God. Those things were consecrated, holy vessels that were only to be used in temples, right? For the purpose of serving God. You know, that was the purpose of those vessels also, not for entertainment. Now, what is his meaning in going and asking them to bring that? I mean, what difference does it make? Did they not have vessels? What do you think was their purpose, his purpose in asking them to bring that? You see, when pride fills your heart, a vessel that was meant for God, if you are asking it for yourself and for your people, what are you putting yourself as?
Gods.
As gods. You remember, you see? You know, what is more than me? And so to portray that I am equal or I am above what those were meant for, he wanted to show the whole world that I can get it. I am above everything else, above any other god that was originally meant for. Do you want me to show you? Let me bring you all the sacred vessels. All of these were intended for the service of God. Now they're in my service. Not only did he drink, you see, when you drink more, what happens? Then he gave it for the service of his governors, people who were below him, even his concubines. Right? Those days they had other ladies for him whenever he wanted. And so, so low, he went so low. And all of them were drinking, his wives, his concubines, all of them were drinking from them. Then they brought the gold vessels that would be taken from the temple of the house of God, which had been Jerusalem, and the king, all of them were drinking, right? They drank wine, and what did they do? Number one, defiling the purpose for which those sacred vessels were used. And then you see what happens. They were praising whom? Praising all the heathen gods. Gods made from gold, from silver, from bronze, iron, wood, stone. All those gods they were praising. They made all these idols, and then they were praising all of them by defiling the sacred vessels. That was the condition of that party that was going on there. And in the same hour, as this was going on, a finger, right, without any blood, a bloodless finger, right, of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand of the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. Right? There is a huge wall, and the king was sitting right there, and there was a lampstand, the light falling on the wall, and right there was only a finger writing on the wall. Right? That would have been a very frightening scene for all of them to see. Right? Immediately, I'm sure they must have thought that this is a judgment coming upon us. This thing cannot happen. You will not see it. It is a supernatural, unnatural. It's just, very, very out of the ordinary. And so I'm sure all the evil deeds that they did were flashing in front of their eyes and wondering if a judgment is being pronounced upon them. And what next? What is going to happen next? His countenance changed, his face changed, and all of his thoughts were troubling him. I'm sure all the intoxication is gone. And he came back to his senses, but he was so frightened. His hips were loosened and his knees were knocking against each other. Right? Knees knocking against each other, when does it happen?
Shiver.
When you shiver, when you're so frightened. The king cried out aloud to bring, he saw some writing, but he couldn't understand what that meant. So he brought all the astrologers, all the Chaldeans, the magicians, soothsayers, everybody, bring all of them. And then he showed them that writing. And what did he say? He was so interested because of what he was doing. When you're doing wrong and when you know what you're doing is wrong, right? And when you see something unnatural happen, you will always think that is because of what you have done. That might be a punishment for what I have done. Right? And if somebody can tell me if that is my punishment, I will be so, I'll be so curious about that. And so I want to know something about it. Why? Because I fear something. And so because of his fear, he really wanted to understand what that is. So much so that he gave an offer. What offer did he give? The king spoke, saying to all the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and tell me correctly its interpretation, you will be clothed with purple. Those days, only the kings used to be clothed in purple. Purple means kings, highest authority. I will clothe you in purple. Right? You will have a chain of gold around your neck, and you shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Right? I will give you gifts, and I'll also make you the third ruler in the kingdom. Usually they would say you would be second to me, after me. But in this case, his father was the first, he was the second, and so his offer can only be, you will be the third ruler in the kingdom. Right? Now all the king's wise men came, a wonderful offer, right? All of them were reading that writing and to make known the king and to interpretation. And all the lords also were astonished, but nobody could even read the writing or make known to the king its interpretation. Right? Nobody could read it properly, or even if they could read it, they could not tell what its interpretation was. Right? It is very, very, I find this very interesting. The writing was in Aramaic. Okay? The writing was in Aramaic. That was their language. How can the wise men not even read it? You see what I'm saying? That is the level of when God wants to convey something through some people, it is the wisdom that he gives only. Nobody else, everybody else will be blank about it. Right? So much so that they would not even attempt, which means that God did not want any of these people to waste their time in trying to understand what that is. That was a message that God reserved for somebody else to convey. And when he has a plan for somebody else, nobody else will be able to fulfill that. It is only for him to do it. And so, far from the interpretations, most of them were not even able to read it. For whatever reason, they could not comprehend what it was. Hence, again, he was so troubled. Everyone was astonished. Right? The king Belshaazar was greatly troubled. His countenance was changed, and his lords were astonished. Now, the queen came to know that there is something going on, some commotion that is going on, and the king is very worried. She was somewhere inside. She came running outside. What did she say? Can someone read from 10 to 12? What did the queen, his mother, the Belshazzar's mother, what did she tell Belshazzar? Yeah.
రాజునకును అతని అధిపతులకును జరిగిన సంగతి రాణి తెలుసుకొని విందు గృహమునకు వచ్చి ఇట్లనెను, రాజు చిరకాలము జీవించును గాక. నీ తలంపులు నిన్ను కలవరపరచనీయకము, నీ మనసు నిబ్బరముగా ఉండనిమ్ము. నీ రాజ్యంలో ఒక మనుష్యుడు ఉన్నాడు, అతడు పరిశుద్ధ దేవతల ఆత్మ గలవాడు. నీ తండ్రి కాలంలో అతడు దైవ జ్ఞానం వంటి జ్ఞానమును బుద్ధియు తెలివియు గలవాడై ఉండుట నీ తండ్రి కనుగొనెను గనుక నీ తండ్రి అయిన రాజగు నెబుకద్నెజరు శకునుగాండ్రకును గారడీ విద్య గల వారికిని కల్దీయులకును జ్యోతిష్యులకును పై అధిపతిగా అతన్ని నియమించెను. ఈ దానియేలు శ్రేష్టమైన బుద్ధి గలవాడై కలలు తెలియజేయుటకును మర్మములు బయలుపరచుటకును కఠినమైన ప్రశ్నలకు ఉత్తరమిచ్చుటకును జ్ఞానమును తెలివియు గలవాడుగా కనబడెను గనుక ఆ రాజు అతనికి బెల్షాజరు అను పేరు పెట్టెను. ఈ దానియేలును పిలవనంపము, అతడు దీని భావము నీకు తెలియజెప్పును.
Right. So the queen mother, what does she say? Don't be troubled. Right. Again, she knows. Right. She knows about Nebuchadnezzar. Right. And so in the days of your father, a lot of Bible scholars are confused. Why did we use father here? Was Nebuchadnezzar the father of this one? But, in those days, in the Aramaic language, when they said father, fathers, right? Your fathers, they spoke about the previous generations. The last king who was very, very popular was Nebuchadnezzar, right? Before Belshazzar, it was Nebuchadnezzar. In between, there were few kings, but none of them really lasted long or was known for anything. And in that sense, she said, your father, the previous known big king, right? So it is possible that Nebuchadnezzar had that significance like a father in Babylon, right? Like father of the nation, kind of something like that. So your father, Nebuchadnezzar, he made him chief. So he, in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him. There is a man in your kingdom in whom the Spirit of God is there. And your father made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, soothsayers. Because there is an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, explaining enigmas, was found in Daniel. You see how much she remembers about Daniel? So Daniel did all these things. He may have solved riddles, enigmas. Only few are recorded here, right? Daniel recorded a few. He may have done so many things that others noticed, but he did not just record here. Excellent spirit inside him. So much she remembers about Daniel. So sure, though Daniel was very old at that point of time, she still believed, go call Daniel. Don't be this troubled. I'm sure he will tell you the interpretation, right? And of course, Daniel's name was Belshaazar. right? It was given, but Daniel did not often use that name of Belteshazzar. He called himself Daniel. His Hebrew name itself, he called him. So yes, they called Daniel. What did Daniel do? Please read from 13 to 16. From 13 to 16. Daniel came now.
అప్పుడు వారు దానియేలును పిలువనంపించిరి. అతడు రాగా రాజు ఇట్లనెను, రాజుగు నా తండ్రి యూదయలో నుండి ఇక్కడికి తీసుకొని వచ్చిన చెర సంబంధమగు యూదులలో నుండు దానియేలు నీవే కదా? దేవతల ఆత్మయు వివేకమును బుద్ధియు విశేష జ్ఞానమును నీ యందున్నవని నిన్ను గూర్చి వింటిని. ఈ వ్రాత చదివి దాని భావము తెలియజెప్పవలెనని జ్ఞానులను గారడీ విద్య గల వారిని పిలువనంపించితిని గాని వారు ఈ సంగతి యొక్క భావమును తెలుపలేకపోయిరి. అంతర్భావములను బయలుపరచుటకును కఠినమైన ప్రశ్నలకు ఉత్తరం ఇచ్చుటకును నీవు సమర్థుడవని నిన్ను గూర్చి వినియున్నాను గనుక ఈ వ్రాతను చదువుటకును దాని భావమును తెలియచెప్పుటకును నీకు శక్యమైన ఎడల నీవు ఊదారంగు వస్త్రము కట్టుకొని మెడను సువర్ణ కంఠ భూషణమును ధరించుకొని రాజ్యంలో 3వ అధిపతివిగా ఏలుదువు. అందుకు దానియేలు,
Thank you so much. So now he called Daniel and he told, you're the Daniel whom, served under my grandfather as well. You are able to solve all these enigmas and solve these puzzles and riddles and interpret dreams. I heard about you. Here is the writing, right? We were having this party. This is what happened exactly. And what did he ask? If you can explain, now if you can read the writing, you can also read it. Some of them are not even able to read that. If you can read that writing and tell me the interpretation, then again, the same offer for you. Like I gave the others. Clothe you in purple, chains around your neck. I'll make you the third ruler in the kingdom. Okay. Now, Daniel's answer is very, very interesting. Okay. So we will read from 17 to 24, but before Daniel even reads it, okay, before Daniel interprets it, Daniel looks at it. Okay, Daniel looks at it. Daniel is immediately given the understanding, the wisdom of what it pertains to, right? Because Daniel has already seen visions of these things, right? But Daniel needs to tell the king some background, why this is happening to you. He is about to deliver a bad news to the king. But anybody who is going to go through a bad thing needs to understand why. Why are you going through this thing? Daniel is talking to the king. He was not afraid to tell Nebuchadnezzar also about his fate. Even that you will go and spend time with animals. No, he was not afraid of that. Your kingdom is going to fall. He was not afraid of that, to tell to the king himself. Here he is again standing in front of the king. He is not afraid to tell the king what kind of a life that king lived and why this thing is happening to you. So please read 17 to 23.
అందుకు దానియేలు ఇట్లనెను, నీ దానములు నీ యొద్ద నుంచుకొనుము, నీ బహుమానములు మరి ఎవనికైనా నిమ్ము. అయితే నేను ఈ వ్రాతను చదివి దాని భావమును రాజునకు తెలియజెప్పెదను. రాజా చిత్తగించుము. మహోన్నతుడగు దేవుడు మహర్దశను, రాజ్యమును, ప్రభావమును, ఘనతను నీ తండ్రి యగు నెబుకద్నెజరుకు ఇచ్చెను. దేవుడు అతనికి మహర్దశ ఇచ్చినందున తానెవరిని చంపగోరెనో వారిని చంపెను, ఎవరిని రక్షింపగోరెనో వారిని రక్షించెను, ఎవరిని హెచ్చింపగోరెనో వారిని హెచ్చించెను, ఎవరిని పడవేయగోరెనో వారిని పడవేసెను. కాబట్టి సకల రాష్ట్రములను, జనులను, ఆయా భాషలు మాట్లాడు వారును అతనికి భయపడుచు అతని ఎదుట వణుకుచూ నుండిరి. అయితే అతడు మనస్సున అతిశయించి బలత్కారము చేయుటకు అతని హృదయమును కఠినము చేసుకొనగా దేవుడు అతని ప్రభుత్వము అతని యొద్ద నుండి తీసివేసి అతని ఘనతను పోగొట్టెను. అప్పుడు అతడు మానవుల యొద్ద నుండి తరుమబడి పశువుల వంటి మనస్సు గలవాడాయను. మహోన్నతుడగు దేవుడు మానవుల రాజ్యములలో ఏలుచు ఎవరిని స్థాపింపగోరనో వారిని స్థాపించునను అతడు తెలుసుకొని వరకు అతడు అడవి గాడిదల మధ్య నివసించుచు పశువుల వలె గడ్డి మేయుచు ఆకాశపు మంచు చేత తడిసిన శరీరము గలవాడాయను. బెల్షాజరు అతని కుమారుడవగు నీవు ఈ సంగతి అంతయు ఎరిగియుండియు నీ మనస్సును అణుచుకొనక పరలోకమందున్న ప్రభువు మీద నిన్ను నీవే హెచ్చించుకొంటివి. ఎట్లనగా నీవును నీ అధిపతులను నీ రాణులను నీ ఉపపత్నులను దేవుని ఆలయ సంబంధమగు ఉపకరణములలో ద్రాక్షారసము పోసి త్రాగవలనని వాటిని తెచ్చి ఉంచుకొని వాటితో త్రాగుచు చూడనైనను విననైనను గ్రహింపనైనను చేతకాని వెండి బంగారు ఇత్తడి ఇనుము కర్ర రాయి అను వాటితో చేయబడిన దేవతలను స్తుతించితిరి గాని నీ ప్రాణమును నీ సకల మార్గములను ఏ దేవుని వశమున ఉన్నవో ఆయనను నీవు గణపరచలేదు.
Yes. So, he gives him a little bit of background. What happened to your grandfather Nebuchadnezzar? At the beginning, everything was given to him, right? Literally, what was given because of the majesty he gave him. Before this, Daniel, he said, I don't want any of your rewards. You offered rewards, I don't want. You keep those rewards, give them to somebody else. But because of what Nebuchadnezzar did, because of what God did for Nebuchadnezzar, because of all the peoples, nations, everyone whom he gave before him, whatever he wanted, he did. He executed, meaning he killed whomever he wanted. Whomever he wanted, he kept alive, right? Whichever nation he wanted, it was given to him. He put down whatever. But when his heart became proud, God humbled him and made him go into the forest to live with wild animals and gave him an animal heart, right? You knew all of that, right? And you should know that till Nebuchadnezzar came to an understanding 7 years, after that he came to a full realization that it was not about his might or power, but God appoints people, God appoints rulers and removes also, right, when they go against his will. Nebuchadnezzar realized that only then he came back to the people to live with human beings again. Belshaazar, you knew all of that, yet you lifted yourself against the Lord of heaven. So what you have done, you have brought those holy vessels. Just imagine how much Daniel's heart must have pained learning that those holy vessels that were brought, Daniel came along with those vessels. His heart must have been hurt even when he was coming there, but at least he knows that they were preserved in a sacred place here. But now those things came out and were used for wine drinking, because you have done all of that, right? And what were you doing after that? Worshipping things that have no idea what you're doing. Then the fingers of hand were sent from him and this writing was written. This is the finger of God. That's what he was telling. And then, yes, let's read from 25 to 29. What was the writing?
ఈ వాక్య భావం ఏమనగా, నినే అనగా దేవుడు నీ ప్రభుత్వ విషయంలో లెక్క చూచి దాన్ని ముగించెను. టేకేల్ అనగా ఆయన నిన్ను త్రాసులో తూచగా నీవు తక్కువగా కనబడితివి. ఫెరేన్ అనగా నీ రాజ్యము నీ యొద్ద నుండి విభాగింపబడి మాదీలకును పారసీకులకును ఇయ్యబడను. బెల్షాజరు ఆజ్ఞ ఇయ్యగా వారు దానియేలునకు ఓదారంగు వస్త్రము తొడిగించి అతని మెడను బంగారపు హారము వేసి ప్రభుత్వం చేయుటలో అతడు 3వ అధికారి అని చాటించిరి. ఆ రాత్రి అందే కల్దీయుల రాజగు బెల్షాజరు హతుడాయను. మాదీయుడగు దర్యావేషు 62 సంవత్సరముల వాడై సింహాసనము నెక్కెను.
Thank you. The writing on the wall was mini tekel uparsin, right? This is Aramaic language, right? They knew what it means, right? Mini means numbers, right? And when you have used it twice, it is as if number, tekel means balance, uparsin, those Perez, it is given here, two words are used. Uparsin is actually written there, but Daniel interprets it as Perez. Right? What is Perez and what is Uparsin? If you actually study the Aramaic version, Perez is singular and Uparsin is plural. Perez means a portion, a small portion, right? Uparsin means several portions, right? Your kingdom will be broken into pieces. First thing is many, many. God has numbered your days. See, if somebody were to read in their language, number, balance, portion, what will you understand? You can read it, but what will you understand from that? Right? So only 4 words were there. Somebody had to understand what that means. Some people may be able to read it and they can see what it means. It's just number, balance, share or portion. Right? So now Daniel came and connected it. Numbers, what does it mean? God has numbered your days. Twice it is used means that number is coming to an end. Today, that number comes to an end. Right? That means God has measured you in the, God has weighed you, tekel. God has weighed you in the balance and you have been found wanting. What is that balance? Judgment. God is weighing all of us in the balance. On one side is our life and on one side is God's will and God's law. Will we be found wanting? Will we be falling short? That is what it is. You have been weighed in the balance and you have been found wanting. You are not matching up to what God wanted you to do. In fact, you have went completely on the opposite direction. And that's why God has numbered your days. And today that number comes to an end. Why? Because God has weighed you and you are found wanting. And what is the result of that? Your kingdom will be, what did it say? Perez. Your kingdom has been divided, portions. It will be broken into pieces and it will be given to the Medes and Persians. Right? See, this word Perez has a dual meaning. It also, some of the words match Persians, right? Perez, Persians. And also that it means that it will be broken. It will not be anymore united. And that's what happened under the Medo-Persian. The Babylonian province was broken out completely. It wasn't that united kingdom anymore. It's going to happen, right? And then Belshaazar, do you think he was happy or not happy at this? He must have been, he had no idea when this would fall on him, right? Maybe he was thinking it will come sometime soon. Maybe he thought he had more time. I don't know what he was thinking. But as he promised Daniel, what did he do? He gave the command. Clothe Daniel, give him command. He clothed him with purple. He put a chain of gold. And then he said that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. Right? But what happened that night? That very night, while this party was going on, everybody, those days, Babylon was such a secure city. So much so that if there is an enemy outside and they are not able to go outside, they had 1 year of food supply inside Babylon. That is how Babylon was. That is how secure it was. It had huge walls around it. And the most important thing that Babylon, the biggest security that Babylon had was it had a river. This river Euphrates? Your Euphrates was going around it. And so enemies cannot even come inside. Right? The river would consume those enemies. I mean, anybody would fall and then drown. There's no way that they can even come. So they felt very, very secure. Right? You cannot attack suddenly. You will be in the water, you will be vulnerable, and then Babylonians can come and easily detect you and then destroy you in the water itself. So they felt so secure that they were completely in their own world. Maybe I'll just show you a map and then we will end this so that you understand. Let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, brother.
Yes,
brother.
All right. So Babylon today it's in Iraq. Okay. They call it the Babylonian Governorate. It's a small province. It's not very far from Baghdad. Okay. So it's somewhere here, right? So here you see Babylon, how it was. Can you see there is a river flowing here? Right? Anybody can read this? What does it say? River Euphrates. Right? River Euphrates is on one side. In fact, actually, it's a very interesting thing how this river Euphrates came. Let me just show you something here. Yeah, Euphrates, and one of the tributaries of Euphrates. I think I went too far. Sorry. Yeah. See here, you see Euphrates here, and you also see Euphrates here. Can you see that? You see here how this river Euphrates on one side here and on one side here. What happens to the space in between? You see how secure this place is? Because there is a river flowing on the left and then the same river on this side. Babylonian kingdom was all of this. They felt so secure because they were surrounded by river here and the river here. Same river, Euphrates. You see how it is flowing like this? It hasn't changed since then. But what King Cyrus, the Persian king, did at that point of time is he actually diverted, and I don't know if this is the part, but what he did was, in order to make way, while that party was going on here, he made a small channel so that he diverts the water away, and so that he made a channel so that it diverts something like this, right? He made a channel so that it diverts away so that the water level will go down here, right? And so he made a channel, it went away, all of this while the party was going on. They did not even know about it. And all the water went this way. And then through this particular thing here, slowly his soldiers crossed into that one. They were actually able to cross because all the water was gone. And then they, it took several days because this party was going on and they were not even looking what was going on outside. And finally he came, and then he came into the walls of Babylon, into the gates of Babylon, killed all the guards there, and then entered into the city of Babylon. Finally, they came to the king's palace and then caught hold of the king. And in order to take a kingdom, the first thing you do is kill the king. Either take him captive or kill him. Cyrus decided to kill Belshaazar. And so that very night, when this judgment came, Belshaazar, who was having a party, was killed. And that very night, that kingdom was given over to the Persians. Sir Cyrus was the king of Persia and Media. Right? The kings were, friends, the Medians and the Persians. So much so that they intermarried, and Darius's nephew was Cyrus. So basically, Cyrus's uncle was Darius, though Cyrus was the emperor, right? So what he did was, in order to please his uncle, he put his uncle as the in charge. Cyrus was a young guy, but this man was 62 years old. So he said, you be in charge of Babylon. Cyrus was going and conquering, right? So for him, this was just a small kingdom, but he went and conquered so much more. And he appointed different kings, smaller kings, because he was in charge of the whole thing anyway. So that day, Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. That was the end of the Babylonian kingdom. End of Belshaazar, end of the Babylonian kingdom, and the beginning of the Medo-Persian kingdom. Amen?
Amen.